Just because I killed my family doesn't mean I didn't love them.
So I decided to sign up for the horror pack. I've wanted to try this out for a little while, ever since I heard about it thanks to a Cool Duder vid where he unboxes them. If you don't know what the horror pack is, it's a monthly subscription service that will send you a box of random horror movies once a month in the mail. You can either sign up for the DVD pack, which includes 4 random horror DVDs a month with multiple payment plans. You can get it for $19.99 a month, or you can bundle your months together to save a little extra Skrilla with a 3-month plan, 6-month, or 12-month plan. They also offer a Blu-ray subscription, which is the one I signed up for. The selling point here for me is that every month you'll receive a horror pack limited edition Blu-ray that is only available in the horror pack, which is really cool. The Blu-ray pack is $24.99 a month, and they also offer the bundling plans of 3, 6, or 12 months to help save a little bit of cash. Me personally, I chose the monthly plan because if you choose a bundle plan, you have to pay for all the months up front instead of just one at a time. I prefer the option of just paying a smaller amount up front and having the flexibility to cancel at any time. I know I'd save some money in the long run if I kept it, but I feel like you don't really save enough to give up the flexibility of just doing it monthly. Now, from my understanding, you can cancel your renewal at any time, but I believe that if you pay for everything up front, then you're kind of out of that money and you're stuck with those months, and it might be something that you don't like. I personally just like that flexibility. Now, I do want to state that I am not sponsored by the horror pack. Willing, but not. This is just a subscription that I've wanted to try for myself for some time and decided to make a video on it because I wanted to answer 2 questions I had about the pack. Number 1, being whether or not this box has any value in it. Would it be cheaper to go buy them individually, or are you saving money by getting them in the box? And number 2, are they quality movies? Now, opinion on films is always very personal and will always come down to an individual level, but are they movies that I like and would recommend to friends? Or is the box filled with a bunch of rejects that normally don't sell and end up at dollar stores? For this video, I've decided to sign up for 3 months to see what I get and to see if my questions about the horror pack will be answered. The first horror pack I got was for September of 2020. The unboxing part is bad, I know, but this was when I decided to include unboxing them for the video and didn't really think about what I was doing nor set anything up, really. But the first film is called Patient Zero. This is one I've never heard of, but it has a great cast of Matt Smith, Natalie Dormer, and Stanley Tucci, so that's cool. Up next is the horror pack exclusive Betsy, another one that I know nothing about. It didn't show up very well in the recording either because of how dark the case is. But the third film is Mega Shark vs. Mecha Shark, from the studio that brought you Sharknado, Atlantic Rim, and Transmorphers. I'm pretty sure this one's going to be pretty bad. And last but not least is Annabelle. Yay. I'm not the biggest fan of this one from what I remember back in theaters. That's the first pack, so let's dive into these movies. Patient Zero isn't really as much of a zombie flick as it is an infection film with solid performances by Matt Smith, Stanley Tucci, and Natalie Dormer. The film follows a group of researchers looking for Patient Zero so they can find a cure. Matt Smith's character was bitten but didn't turn, so he's able to communicate with the rabid infected. I really like how they did the communication in this film. It starts off with like small grunting and then turns into a regular performance so the audience can understand what they're saying. Something like this could turn out really stupid, but I felt like the film handles it pretty well. Another thing I really enjoyed was the infected themselves. They're like rabid animals that want to attack other people, but they're also still kind of there mentally. They can still communicate in their own way, organize, and work together to make them truly menacing without giving them like over-the-top strength or powers. Other than making them turn vicious and kind of acting like zombies, they don't really gain anything else. And they die like anybody else, not needing that fatal headshot. They can die from stabbing or, anything like that. They're real people who are just infected, and because of this infection, they're super violent. There's some good cinematography here and there as well, with some quick pacing. This film goes by pretty quick. Me personally, I was enjoying the search for Patient Zero much more than the action-packed ending, but overall, I really enjoyed this one. It has some good moments and some good ideas, even if the ending feels tonally contradicting to the rest of the film, but I enjoyed it overall. The Blu-ray doesn't come with any special features other than some previews of other films, but I'd definitely give Patient Zero like a 7 out of 10. It's a pretty good way to start the horror pack. So to price the films, I'm going to use Amazon. If it's not on Amazon, I'm going to check another major retailer, and then if all else fails, we'll look at eBay. But Patient Zero currently on Amazon is $14.97. That is a huge chunk to the price of box 1. So I think we're going to make our value back in box 1. The first in the Horror Pack exclusive is Betsy. The film is written and directed by Sean Burkett and stars Mary Lee Osborne, Aaron R. Ryan, and Josh Miller, and it's about a woman who is attacked by a man and slowly devolves into a werewolf, and it's pretty bad. I was honestly really excited to check this one out because it was shot on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema. That's the same camera I used in Shadow and Life, and here recently my Blu-ray updates and parts of this video. So it's nice to see what others are able to accomplish with the same gear. I'm not sure what lenses they used, but it's cool that they use the same camera. There's honestly though not a lot I can say about the film that I liked, other than one scene in particular where Betsy is hyperventilating in front of a mirror, and there's cuts to her losing herself to the beast within. I personally thought that scene was great. The rest of the film though is your kind of typical no budget trappings. Bad acting, editing, lighting, cinematography, audio issues, and personally the most annoying to me was the music. It's one of those films that just can't breathe on its own. There's constantly some kind of background music or droning that just irritates me after a while, and also drags the pacing down because it feels like in the film nothing's really moving along because you have the same constant noise in the background. There's this musical track where they just strum a guitar with heavy reverb and delay on it, and they use it for like every cut, it seems like. Every time there's like a cut in the film and we move to something else, they even reuse it at different moments but speeding it up. It's just super distracting, and after a while we were laughing at every time it came up. Another funny thing was when Betsy first attacks somebody. She just leaves a bite mark on the guy's neck and everyone's talking about how gruesome it was and how he was shredded to pieces, but then it shows the victim and it's literally just a bite on his neck.
I just want you to know it's really fucking gross over there.
Jill, he was just torn to shreds.
Honestly, Betsy's exactly what I thought I was going to get going into the horror pack. You know, your low budget schlocky horror. That was just an overstock. The Blu-ray does come with some special features like a behind the scenes that I wouldn't mind checking out just because I'm interested to see what they did with the Blackmagic camera and what other equipment they used. It also includes some interviews and trailers. However, the back of the Blu-ray case claims it comes with a black and white alternative cut, but I couldn't find that anywhere on the disc, so that's a little strange. Overall though, I think I'd give this film a 2 out of 10. Now, I couldn't find this one on Amazon. Being a horror pack exclusive, I feel like you're probably gonna have to go to eBay for this one to try to find it. I'm not too sure if I should include the horror pack exclusives in the price just because they are going to be hard to find, and because they are an exclusive to this set, they're probably going to be kind of pricey. Basically 21 bucks is the cheapest on eBay, it seems like, so that's almost the pack right there. So I'm not quite sure if I'm going to figure that into the box, but maybe I should. Mega Shark vs. Mecha Shark is a film put out by The Asylum, a company that mainly focuses on mockbusters that mimic a major studio film. A lot of their original content are these crazy concept sci-fi horror monster movies like Sharknado that are never really that good. And Mega Shark vs. Mecha Shark is no different, and honestly this film is terrible. The film stars Debbie Gibson, Elizabeth Rome, and Christopher Judge, and is about a mega shark breaking out of an iceberg and terrorizing the seas as a military group dispatches a mecha shark to combat the mega shark, and that combat is maybe a couple minutes of the film at most. Most of the film is filled with cheesy, poorly written scientific jargon that's basically just read off the script by the cast with no emotion whatsoever. Then for some reason the mega shark goes rogue, going on land and attacking people. It's actually surprising how much of this movie is on land. It's a 90-minute film that feels like it's 12 hours because there's no pacing at all and nothing really happens. They do that thing what Betsy does where they play the background score through the entire film. It's a pretty generic score that feels like free to use music. And like I said before, when you play a constant score and don't give the film time to breathe, that constant background music that doesn't seem to change makes the film drag out way more than it already is. I knew going into this one with the company's reputation that it was probably going to be bad, but I was hoping for something kind of like Sharknado that borders the line of so bad it's good, but this is just an awful film. It looks cheap with CGI moments that look straight out of a PS2 game cutscene, and some of the worst shot composition you can ask for. Even something like Betsy, that has a lot of major flaws, at least has some charm to it by being so low budget. Here's actually something that has a mild budget that feels like they could have been able to do something with it, but instead you get a film that feels very factory made, but it's one of those factories that makes knockoff purses with no passion or energy. You do get some special features like original widescreen presentation and 5.1 surround sound, which aren't really special features, those are kind of the specs of the film. You do get some cast and crew interviews, the making of, bloopers, and trailers. but this is not a film I would recommend. There was a few moments I laughed at the film ironically, and also Wet Movie 1 drops in for a split second, so I'd give it like a 1.5 out of 10. And that should be saying something, because I barely give out anything lower than a 2, because there's typically something enjoyable or redeemable about a film. Not really in this one. On Amazon, Mecha Shark vs. Mega Shark is worth $7.70 for the multi-pack. The one I have is just the Blu-ray. It's one disc, it's not a 2-disc, but on Amazon the multi-pack says there's only one disc, so I'm not really too sure what that means, but we're gonna lump it in as $7.70, which is $7.69 more than you should pay for this. I haven't seen Annabelle since theaters, but I was never a big fan of this one. It's a spin-off of the Conjuring films about the origins of the Annabelle doll. The film's recipe is basically a dash of Child's Play, a pinch of Manson Cult, and about 2 pounds of Rosemary's Baby. The film is about a couple expecting their first child when the husband, John, played by Ward Horton, gives his wife, Mia, played by Annabelle Wallace, a doll that would soon become the Annabelle doll. I just realized that there's a woman named Annabelle playing in the Annabelle movie. But the doll is named after Annabelle Higgins, and her Manson-esque family break into the house and try to kill the couple when Annabelle Higgins kills herself over top the doll, and that's when the spooky stuff happens. My biggest issue with the film is that it's just kind of boring. I didn't find the demon scary at all, it just kind of felt rather like a nuisance. It didn't feel like a threat to me, honestly, in the film. The idea that the demon is trying to break the mother down so that she would give up herself rather than the baby just didn't work for me that well, because nothing the demon was doing really felt that mentally taxing, in my opinion. Another thing was just how sloppy some of the jump scares are. There's a scene where a little girl is running towards the door as the door is shutting, and then a full grown-up ghost bursts through, and it was just sloppy to me, and they kind of sold this in the trailer as like the big scare. I did find out the scene that I liked the best in the film, which is the elevator scene, was actually directed by James Wan, and you can kind of tell it's a different director because it has a completely different atmosphere and level to it that wasn't in the rest of the film. The film was directed by John R. Leonetti, who is also the director of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, just saying, but he was also the cinematographer of The Conjuring, and at least on a visual standpoint, it does kind of feel like it fits with the Conjuring films. Considering this is a spin-off, it's actually nice to feel like it's in the same universe. The Blu-ray is a combo pack coming with the DVD and some special features such as The Curse of Annabelle, Bloody Tears of Possession, Dolls of the Demon, a demonic possession, and deleted scenes. It's nice to see the horror pack though giving us a major studio release along with some lower budget stuff, but after my rewatch, my opinion on Annabelle hasn't changed. I'm still not a big fan of it, and I give it a 4 out of 10. Now on Amazon, you can get Annabelle in the trilogy pack. I didn't know there was actually even a third Annabelle film. I thought there was only 2. But as for the edition that I own, the DVD Blu-ray combo pack, it's not really available on Amazon, so I decided to go over and look at Best Buy. And on Best Buy, you can get it for $6.99. With that, it makes the September box worth about $51.36. Now, prices are always able to change, but this is at the time of making this video. So I was able to save about $26.37, making the first box definitely worth its value, actually doubled its value. So that's pretty cool. The HorrorPack website said October was going to be a big pack since it was their 5th year anniversary, so I was pretty excited for this one. I feel like my setup's a little better, but I did have some technical difficulties, but I'm getting there. The first film out of the box is the original Carrie. Now this is a great film, but I already own it. I figured at some point I would get a movie that I already own since I collect so much, but let's just move on. Number 2 is Lights Out. Okay, I own 2 for 2 out of this box so far. I haven't watched this one yet, but if you watch my collection updates, you'll know I picked this one up a few months ago for $3 at a dollar store. The horror pack exclusive for this month is The Barn, a film that I know nothing about, but it looks like it could be pretty fun. Finally, last but not least, is Dead Dicks, another blind one for me. So unfortunately, I already own half this box, but I was expecting to receive some duplicates since I own so much, like I said. So it's not that big of a deal, so let's just tear into the box. Carrie from 1976 has always been a classic horror film to me. I mean, at this point, about everyone has probably seen this film, or at least know its climax, because it's one of the best scenes in horror history. The film is directed by none other than the great Brian De Palma, and stars Sissy Spacek and John Travolta. It follows Carrie White, a teenage girl with a zealot mother that abuses her. Because of her mother's upbringing, she is rather awkward at school and the constant target of bullying. Over the course of the film, she discovers that she has telekinetic powers when she's asked to go to prom, and we get the amazing finale.
They're all gonna laugh at you! They're all gonna laugh at you! They're all gonna laugh at you!
Rewatching this one after a few years just reaffirms my opinion on this film being a classic. It's probably my favorite performance I've seen by Sissy Spacek, and the direction by De Palma is just masterful. There's some really great shot composition. I love the use of split screen in this film. And the film has like crazy fast pacing. It feels like it's barely under an hour, it just goes by so quick. There's not really much negative I can say about this film other than maybe the score's not really that outstanding to me. I did say earlier that I already own this one, but the copy that the Horror Pack sent me is the DVD Blu-ray combo pack, and the one I own is the Blu-ray only, so this pack's pretty cool. For special features you get a good amount, including an acting documentary, a visualization documentary, Carrie the musical featurette, animated photo gallery, Stephen King and the Evolution of Carrie, and original theatrical trailer. If I didn't already own it, I would have been thrilled to get this one, but I'll probably actually end up keeping the one the Horror Pack sent me and getting rid of my old copy just because it's the combo pack. But overall, I'd give Carrie a 9 out of 10. It's an incredible horror classic that I think everybody should own and watch. Now, with Carrie, Scream Factory did put out a really cool release of this. If I already didn't own 2 copies of this movie, I'd probably own the Scream Factory version, but I can't really find the DVD Blu-ray combo pack on Amazon. But what I can find is just the Blu-ray for $5.99. This is a pretty readily available movie you can find just about anywhere, so I'm going to include the $5.99 price tag, even though it's not the exact copy that I received. Lights Out's the directorial debut of David F. Sandberg, who would later go on to direct the good Annabelle movie and Shazam. The film stars Teresa Palmer and Gabriel Bateman and is one of those movies I've wanted to watch for a really long time but just haven't yet. I picked it up a few months ago at Dollar General for $3, but when I look at price later on, I'm going to go off of Amazon, since dollar stores are a rather random find and a mixed bag. Regardless, the film is about a family suffering from a monster who hides in the dark, and it's pretty fantastic. It's been a long time since I've watched a horror movie that's had me this on edge. The film opens with an amazing scene showcasing how the demon works, and not only is the scene terrifying, but it sets the tone and the pacing for the rest of the film while explaining how the creature works perfectly. The design of the creature is great. It's basically just a shadow figure for the entire movie, but what really adds to it is the reflective, animalistic night vision eyes they gave it. It's terrifying, and it feels like a true monster in the dark. This is a very fast-paced film. From start to finish, the film rarely lets up, but it does give you enough room to breathe so it doesn't become completely complacent. This is by far the best performance I've seen by Teresa Palmer, and everyone else is really bringing their A game as well. My biggest issue with the film comes from more of a personal taste. I wasn't crazy about how sci-fi it got with the monster's origin story, but that's really it. I look back to Annabelle from the last pack where the demon didn't really feel threatening, but the monster here feels like a true force of nature. She's unpredictable, manipulative, and possessive, making her a threat every time there's a shadow. The film feels like it's a metaphor about the damage a mother can inflict upon her children unknowingly, and it works well here. Now, the Blu-ray only comes with some deleted scenes for special features, so that kind of sucks. I would have liked to seen like a behind the scenes or maybe a director's commentary or even like the original short film that this is based off of, but still overall this is a great horror film that I would give an 8.5 out of 10 to. I really liked it a lot. Now, I found Lights Out originally for $3 at Dollar General a few months back. If you're interested in this movie, I hope you find it for that as well, but dollar stores like that are really unreliable when it comes to actually finding it in store and for the same price. So I want to go off of Amazon, which is readily available for $9.99. If I would have paid that for this movie, I would still be happy, so. The Barn is October's Horror Pack exclusive. This was another film that I have never heard about, and personally I loved it. It's a film that's retrofitted to pay homage to the 80s slasher film, and it's a lot of fun blending horror and comedy really well. It's directed by Justin M. Seaman and stars Mitchell Mussolino, Will Stout, and Lexi Drips, and is about a group of friends on Devil's Night going to a concert when they stop at a barn and reenact the ritual to summon 3 evil figures that's part of the town's lore. Well, guess what? The lore's real and the film's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's pretty retrofitted. It's one that clearly looks like a modern film. It looks like it was shot on digital, but with the added film grain and film damage, it made it look older while clearly not authentic. It is visually pleasing and it adds a lot of charm to the film. Not authentic, but a homage style that works. The score is pretty great throughout the film. It feels very Carpenter-esque. The costumes of the 3 villains look cheap, but it kind of adds to the fun as well. The gore effects are pretty decent for the most part, but there are some bad CG moments. But it's like one of those films that the cheaper the effects and costumes are, the better it is, and it all works to the overall aesthetic of the film. For special features, you get like a litany of stuff here, including a behind the scenes, gag reel, deleted scenes, alternate ending, trailer, music videos, commentary tracks, short film, commercials, original storybook, and premiere reactions. This overall was just a really fun, good time that I would definitely recommend. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, and it's a massive step up from Betsy. Now, one thing I thought was kind of weird with the barn was I always thought that the exclusive in the horror packs was the only way to receive this movie on Blu-ray. I think that actually means you just get something kind of exclusive to the pack, which could also just be alternative art, because I found the barn on Amazon when I originally got this pack. At the time of recording this though, the barn has disappeared from Amazon, so I don't know what I'm going to price this as. You can get it on DVD for pretty cheap, but it is ridiculously expensive on Blu-ray for $194.95. I don't think I'm going to say that's the price of the film. I couldn't really find a good copy of this on eBay either, so I'm not really sure how I'm going to price this one. I might just lump it in at $15. That seems like a fair movie price, so let's just say $15. And the last film of October's horror pack is Dead Dicks. This is another film that I've heard nothing about, but there is a releasing from Artsploitation Films, so I feel like at some point in time I probably would have came across it. This copy isn't the release by them, and I probably won't buy the Artsploitation release while having this copy, but I would recommend checking out some of Artsploitation's stuff. They put out some really interesting things. Not sponsored by them, but as always, would be willing. Anyway, Dead Dicks is one of those films where if somebody asked me, what's a good micro budget film, or how can a film with no budget be good, I would tell them to go watch this. It was made for about $25,000 Canadian, or about $20,000 US, using basically one location for the entire film and a cast of 3. It uses its resources to the best of its ability. The film is written and directed by Chris Bovote and Lee Paula Singer, and stars Heston Horwin, Jillian Harris, and Matt Keyes. The film follows a man named Richie that kills himself and is reborn in a vagina-shaped hole in his wall, so he tries again and again. I remember watching this one and being about 20 minutes into it thinking that this is a really cool idea, but will probably get old really fast. But the film is so well written and paced that it never gets old and rather subverts your expectations of what will happen next. All 3 of the leads here give great performances, and it's kind of their performances that help carry the film way beyond its budget. For such tight spaces they were working in, most of the film is either close up or a wide shot, but the shot composition is strong enough that never really makes the film feel stagnant. And honestly, it has a hell of an opener. The opening scene to this film is fantastic and very nerve-wracking. Blu-ray does come with the director's commentary, a behind-the-scenes video diaries, Zoom with cast and crew, trailer, and a photo gallery. I'm not sure if the Artsploitation release would have any extra bonus features or not, but this is a solid release anyway. Overall, I really enjoyed Dead Dicks. It's never quite as funny as the concept or the title, but then again, I don't feel like it ever really tries to be that funny. It's humorous, but it's more interesting on how the story unfolds and the rules it presents rather than its humor. I'm thinking like a solid 7.5 out of 10 for this one, making the October box awesome. For the pricing, I'm going with the Artsploitation pricing because the release horror pack sent me is the Canadian release, which on Amazon is only the limited edition with a poster, and that wasn't the copy I got. And honestly, if I were to buy this movie outright, I definitely would get the Artsploitation film, which is currently $17.99, making this box worth $48.97. Now, of course, with the barn, I kind of had to take some liberties and just kind of coming up with a price because I couldn't find a copy of it. So I'm going to put an asterisk next to that, but we've saved roughly $23.98, which is still almost the complete price of the box itself. And every one of these movies in this box, I would totally recommend. The final pack of the video is November's pack. I feel like I finally got a decent setup for this one. It only took 3 months to do it, but I think I finally got it. The first film is Dead Ant. This is one that I've actually was a little curious about. Cool Duder Sean C. Phillips has a small role in this, which is fitting because I heard about this pack from his videos, so that's kind of cool. The next up is The Conjuring with the lenticular slipcase. It's funny that we started these packs with Annabelle and now we're getting The Conjuring. The horror pack exclusive for this month is Bloodline, a film that I know nothing about, so hopefully it's more like The Barn and not Betsy. And the last movie is Flatliners. Now, I've seen this one floating around before at Dollar Tree, so I'm not gonna lie that I'm a little bummed it's in here, but hopefully it's at least a good movie. I'm not gonna count it as a Dollar Tree movie because those are a lot of the time random in your area, so I will stick with using Amazon as well. Also, I could hear the disc moving around, so I decided to open up early, and yep, the disc is loose, but it looks clean, so it should be good. I got no duplicates this month, which is cool, so with that, let's move into the final box. I was pretty happy to get Dead Ant because this is one of those films that I've been kind of interested in, I've heard about, but I wasn't going to go out of my way to get it, and I probably would have never bought it on my own. The film was directed by Ron Carlson and stars Tom Arnold, Jake Busey, Reese Coiro, and is basically Steel Panther meets 1954's Them. It's a lot of fun to say the least. Maybe where I grew up with a mother obsessed with bands like Motley Crue or Poison, that I have this affinity for hair metal and its culture, but Dead Ant feels like it captures that mentality as a parody really well. The film follows a washed up hair metal band on the way to Nocella, a discount Coachella, when they decide to stop in the desert to trip on some Native American drugs and try to write some new material, when the bass player played by Sean Austin pisses on an ant killing it, setting off the chain events that leads into giant ant monsters attacking people. The ants are all CG and they all look fake, but the real fun of this movie comes from the actors and the band themselves. Personally, I thought Tom Arnold stole this movie. He was hilarious in my opinion. I'm sure most of his lines were ad-libbed, and he's not someone I go out of my way to see, but this is by far my favorite thing I've seen him in. The rest of the cast does a good job here as well. There's not really a bad performance out of the bunch, which helps keep this film going, even though the ants look super fake. There are some moments where the ants look pretty good, but for the most part they look bad, but there's definitely some inconsistencies with the CGI. I personally really enjoyed Cool Duder's Sean C. Phillips' scene as well. He's a YouTuber I've watched on and off for a little while, and it's just kind of fitting that I heard about this pack from his videos, and I ended up getting a film with him in it. As for special features, you get the Side Boob music video, Sonic Grave pre-stage, Firecracker Bigfoot Hug, Sonic Grave Jam Session, Building Nocella, Pager Stunt versus Movie, Tom Arnold's Bloody Stump, Sean Goes Bowling, and Pitching a Tent. A lot of the special features on this one, I'm not too sure what they entail, but it's nice having those special features. I'm someone who really likes having bonus features even if I don't always check them out, just in case I do, and it gives a little bit more validity to owning so many releases. Overall, I really enjoyed Dead Ant despite some of its big flaws, but to me this is a fun 6 out of 10 and would make for a great party movie. On Amazon, Dead Ant sits for $7.55, and honestly, I'd probably buy it for that price. The Conjuring is being considered a modern classic horror film, and I remember the rave it got when it came out in theaters, and after I watched it in theaters, I thought it was a good film, but nothing really special or outstanding. It seems only fitting that the first pack came with its spin-off Annabelle, and the last pack will come with the original. After rewatching it, I pretty much feel exactly the same. While it's much better than Annabelle, it's just kind of alright. The film was directed by James Wan and stars Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and is about paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren that is called upon to help a family being haunted by a demon in their new house. The best things I can say about the film is that James Wan's a pretty interesting visual director, and the entire cast gives great performances. As for the story, it just feels like a rather cookie-cutter possession story. The more interesting twist being that paranormal investigators are involved, but honestly, like, all the scares are incredibly predictable, and that wasn't just because I'd seen the film before. I remember feeling that way back in theaters. It's like every scare is like the sound going down quiet, then boom, loud noise. It's not really scary, it's just annoying and predictable. I feel like I kind of ragged a little hard on this one because it's not a bad film. There are some good moments here and there, and like I said, there's a ton of great performances and decent visuals that just feel brought down by very generic story beats and predictable scares that took me out of the experience. The release comes with some special features like the Conjuring Face-to-Face with Terror, the Real Life Horror, a Life in Demonology featurette, and a behind the scenes with James Wan. I definitely feel like this film's a little overrated, but if you love this one and consider it a modern classic, then that's awesome. I just don't see it that way. It's a decent film with some merit, so for me it's a 6 out of 10. I couldn't find it on Amazon, shipped and sold by Amazon, so I headed over to Best Buy to see if they had it on there, and I was surprised that it was unavailable on there as well. However, this is available on Walmart.com for $5.99, so we'll lump it into $5.99. I can't believe how hard this movie is to find. I don't think I'd ever go out of my way to buy this one on my own, but we'll add $5.99 to the November pack, and honestly, that's not a whole lot right now. We got a little ways to go. So far with the Horror Pack exclusives, it's been one that I didn't like and one that I loved. So where did Bloodline sit? Yeah, this one's not very good. The film is written, directed, and stars Matt Thompson, starring along with Jesse Christopherson, Kimberly Alexander, Jenna Comparetto, and Christopher Frontiero. I think I might be pronouncing some of those wrong. And is basically about Matt Thompson's character inheriting a cabin in the woods, and his group of friends head out there to stay while mysterious evil starts terrorizing them, tracing back to his ancestry. The film has, I think, every horror trope you can possibly think of thrown into this one. Group of teens going into the woods.
Yep.
Comic relief fat guy.
Yep.
No cell phone service.
Yep.
Stopping at a gas station to find out some spooky stuff.
Yep.
Course, I ain't never seen anyone go up that ride. 6 years ago, a group of campers went up there and got lost. Had to eat each other to stay alive.
Yep.
Car breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole film feels like it's a play-by-the-number generic horror film that includes every trope, but in a serious way, not a cabin-in-the-woods satire kind of way. The pacing here is so bad. The first hour of the film feels like basically the first 20 minutes of any other horror film, and the acting's all over the place. There are some decent performances, there are some bad performances, all by the same actors. There's some where they're trying to sell stuff way too much, and there's some where they're just completely underselling it. One scene, they'll seem like they're being decent and believable as the character, and another they feel like they're just reading lines from the script. The film, however, did feel a little bit more professionally shot than Betsy did. Betsy felt very amateurish, which did give it some charm, but Bloodlines does feel like somebody behind the scenes knew what they were doing. I did enjoy the monster here. It would basically hop from body to body, and there was like some cool visuals with the eyes when it would jump bodies. The eyes would be solid black when the monster possessed them, and then when the monster left, their eyes would turn to white. So this might be heading somewhat into spoiler territory, so be forewarned, but I kind of have to talk about it because it was a huge issue I had with the film. The way the film presents the monster is that when it hops from body to body, the body it was previously in just kind of falls to the ground, and from my understanding, it just kind of remains there. So when there was a scene of a character driving a truck and pinning a body that was possessed by the monster to a tree, it didn't make any sense when the monster just kind of showed up in the truck next to him in that same body. Wouldn't it kind of made more sense that it would have showed up in a different body? It would have been a lot more effective anyway. Never once did this movie establish that when the monster possessed a body, that the body also kind of could turn ghost-like. I don't know. It was a huge issue I had with the film. To me, it kind of made the whole plot just kind of fall apart, and whenever a movie breaks its own rules or just makes shit up, it's like one of my biggest pet peeves in movies. I don't know. There's no special features on this release, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm giving this a 2.5 out of 10. I'm giving it a point higher than Betsy, even though Betsy has more charm. This one does feel more professionally made, and I definitely think there is some passion here. It's just, I didn't like it. Now for the price, this being a HorrorPack exclusive, I couldn't really find it anywhere. I found one copy of it for bidding on eBay, so I'm going to use the same rules for the barn, which is just $15. Considering that these are exclusives, that feels like a decent price for these movies. So let's just lump in 15, I guess. And the last film of the pack and of the video is Flatliners. From my understanding, this is a remake of the 1990s film starring Kevin Bacon and Kiefer Sutherland that I've never seen. The film is about a group of medical students who want to study what happens to you when you die, so they create an experiment to monitor brainwaves when they flatline each other and then bring each other back to life. But when something comes back with them, it gets spooky. It's a pretty cool concept that it kind of made me feel the same way that I did when I was watching Dead Dicks. That it's a cool idea, but it could grow old relatively quick. And unlike Dead Dicks, Flatliners did get pretty stale as time went on. It's almost a rinse and repeat with every main character. They do the experiment, something happens, they discover something, and move on to the next character. Even the climax of the film kind of feels like it progresses the same way, just one character onto the next, onto the next, onto the next. Credits. The remake stars Ellen Page, Diego Luna, and Nina Dobre, and the entire cast gives decent performances, but there's really no standouts. The score in this film is incredibly generic. It's just kind of one of those movies that never really do anything that bad, but they never really do anything that good either, aka a bowl of Blandos. This reminds me of a film called Memory Lane from 2012. I went to college with a guy who played a role in the film, and it's a pretty solid low budget film that has a very similar plot, but I personally enjoyed it better. Who knows, maybe the original film is a lot better than this one. I'm not super interested in checking it out, but if it's in a future horror pack, that would be really cool. As for special features, it does come with some deleted scenes, a featurette of remaking the original, making the round featurette, interview with the director, and the ultimate question. My ultimate question would be, what would I rate this? And for me, it's a 5 out of 10. Very, very down the middle. Now, over on the little mom and pop shop that's called Amazon, don't know if you've heard about it, but you can pick up Flatliners for $8.01, making this the cheapest box out of the whole entire video, coming in at a grand total of $36.55, which saved me only $11.56, which is still quite a bit of money in the grand scheme of things. So now with all the movies under my belt, was I able to answer my 2 questions about the horror pack? Yeah, I was. Question 1, was the pack worth it in value? Are you getting possibly $24.99, or would it be cheaper to go out and buy them individually? With pack 1, the total to buy them individually was $51.36, saving me $26.37, so it definitely gets a pass on the value. Pack 2, the October pack, was worth $48.97 individually with an asterisk, saving me a possible $23.98. And pack 3, the cheapest of the packs, coming in at $36.55 with an asterisk, saved me around $11.56. So yeah, I definitely think you get your value out of these packs for sure. And question 2, are you getting quality films with the pack? To answer this question, I rated every film on a scale of 1 to 10. Now this is always going to be personal opinion, and if you love some of the films that I didn't, then that's good, but for me and my recommendation, I had to know whether or not if you're getting a good selection of films, or just junk nobody else wants that normally ends up at dollar stores. And honestly, it kind of feels like a bit of both. To figure out what I'd rate each box out of 10, I added up the sum of all the points possible of the individual films, and then divided by 4 and rounded to the nearest half point. I hope this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea what you might be getting out of these boxes, and I was kind of surprised how all over the place the scores was. Box 1 got a score of 3.5 out of 10 rounded, making it the lowest score and the weakest box. Really, only Patient Zero is pretty much the only film out of the box I would probably recommend, while Box 2 is by far the best rating with a score of 8 out of 10 rounded. I wonder if this being the 5th year anniversary had something to do with it, but I'd easily recommend every film included in the box. Now to me, Box 3 would have been the quality control test box. With it would include more films to the pool to try to get a more even idea what you'll be getting in each box. And Box 3 has a rating of 5 out of 10 rounded. So for overall box averages, the pack seems to be rather middle ground. You're getting some good stuff, you're getting some bad stuff, and you're getting some stuff in between. The one thing that I'll definitely give credit to the horror pack is that even though there are some stinkers, I felt like I was getting a good variety of films. From differences in genre to budgets, introducing me to some new films that I've never heard of, and including some that I probably wouldn't have ended up getting on my own. Another thing that I was really surprised with the box of how much I loved was the thrill of getting the pack itself. To rip it open to see what mystery I got was a ton of fun. Even though I knew going in I would probably get some duplicates here and there because I collect like crazy, it was exciting to see what I would get regardless. Something weird that I noticed with the pack was the shipping email notification. The pack would normally ship out within a day or two after they took payment out, but for all 3 months I wouldn't receive the shipping verification email until like the package was a day or two out from delivery. Now I could always go onto my account on the website and see the tracking information there as soon as it shipped, but it was just kind of weird to receive the emails so late. So after 3 months with a horror pack, do I like it and do I want to keep it? Yes, and I do. It's definitely worth the value for sure, and I really enjoyed the anticipation to see what comes next in the pack. While I think enjoying the movies was a little bit of a mixed bag, most of these movies were ones that I didn't know about or ones that I probably wouldn't have checked out otherwise. So for that, I'll probably end up keeping the horror pack for a while. I'm curious to see if I get any pack repeats in the future, and if you're a fan of horror or collecting movies, then this is a pretty decent subscription box, at least in my opinion. As always, thanks for watching. Peace.
See your areola from your side boob. What do you think? Let it go. Side boob.